So we've done that exercise on Stress Speaker where we had to think about all of the things that are contributing to your levels of stress at the moment, and we thought about what things you could do to start to maybe to sort of drain off some of that stress. But I suppose another really useful skill then is maybe having a bit more of a closer look at some of those things that are causing stress in the first place and thinking about whether there's something that you could address there, maybe just to cut off the amount of stress that's coming in every day. So of what we talked about last time, what feels like a particularly difficult issue for you that we could have a think about?
Well, I guess thinking about this, the Stress Speaker that we did, a lot of my time gets taken up with my parents.
Right.
Because they are elderly and there isn't anybody else to help them.
Okay.
And that is one of my biggest stresses, really.
So looking after parents. And what does that look like at the moment then?
Well, it is a really big problem because I feel like I'm on call to them all the time. So, they'll ring me 3 or 4 times a day, sometimes late in the evenings as well. I do only live round the corner, but I think because of that, there's an expectation that I will be there at their beck and call.
Yeah.
So as well as the phone call, constant sort of phone calls, I'll be popping in maybe 3 or 4 times a day because they need a hand with the washing, or Dad's had a funny turn and Mum doesn't know what to do with him, or Mum can't change the bed, or they need something from the shops, and then I'll maybe get back from the shops and they want me to go and collect a prescription, and it just goes on and on and on. And my sister doesn't help. She lives in, she doesn't live miles away, but she does live a bit further away, and she's got 2 young children. So I'm sorry, but this really does fall to me. It is a really big problem.
And I know some of what we've talked about all along is the fact that actually sometimes there will be sources of stress in our lives that we can't always do a lot about, but it doesn't mean it has to stay exactly the way it is at the moment.
I just can't see how that's going to change, but it is a big problem.
Yeah. So if we were starting to have a bit of a think today about problem solving with this, I think it would be really useful to just maybe come up with a few options. Not necessarily
that would be good.
Not necessarily thinking them through or deciding on one at the moment, but just have a bit of a brainstorm about what might be possible. And then we'll have a look at those in more detail.
So for any suggestions.
So it sounds like the big issue is just that being on call all the time. So I wonder whether there's maybe any way that you could kind of contain that contact a little bit. To not cut it out entirely, but just keep it boxed up a little bit. So it's not taking up your whole day. Okay. And what's the bit that gets in the way there then?
I guess I kind of think, well, because I have thought in the past, what if I just knocked my phone off?
Turned off your phone? We'll pop it down as an option. That doesn't mean you have to do it.
But then that's made me feel really anxious, because if they really did need me and I missed a phone call from them, but I guess I know we've talked about these unhelpful thoughts before. I guess that could be an example of an unhelpful thought, but my worry is that if I turn my phone off and something happens.
And that's an understandable worry, but I suppose from what you've described there, it seems like, yes, some of the times that you get called on are urgent things like Dad having a funny turn maybe, but going to the shop because they're out of milk is a bit less of an emergency.
Yeah, that's true. And it is more of those, there's never been an emergency.
Okay.
I know rationally there's never been an emergency, and it is more of the, we need something in the shop, or your mum needs a hand change in the bed, or the washing's hanging out and it's raining, can you come and bring it in?
Okay. So is it usually them that contact you throughout the day then?
Oh yeah.
As and when they need something?
Yeah.
I wonder if part of bringing it back within your control a little bit more might be for you to kind of get ahead of that. Do you think? Maybe contact them sort of preemptively.
Yeah.
To see whether there's anything that's needed that day.
Yeah, that sounds good. Then they'll probably still ring me.
Should we pop that on there as a possibility?
Yeah, so that would be
So-
mean that I would ring them
Ideally, what would
like
work
on the
for you?
morning
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
say, is there anything that you need today?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be an option. That feels better than turning off my phone.
Okay.
Mhm.
So that one's a bit preferable.
Mhm, mhm.
It's not going to be perfect though, is it? As you said,
No.
it might work, but it might not stop all of
Mhm.
the calls.
Mhm.
But on the other hand, some of those little things throughout the day, you could kind of get ahead of and be able to plan them into your day a bit.
Yeah.
Are there any other options you can think of? And
Well-
they don't all have to be realistic ones. Part of this exercise is just about brainstorming.
Well, my sister tells me that I should try and get like a Meals on Wheels type thing or some caring support to go
Okay.
in.
Okay.
Maybe in the evenings. I don't think my parents would want that,
Okay.
which is why I've never really followed it through.
Okay.
But it's something we've toyed with in the past.
Okay. So the barrier there is your parents preferring you
Yeah.
to do those things. But I suppose when we've talked about how to communicate your needs to people now, and I wonder whether there are skills there that you could use to maybe have some of those difficult conversations.
Yeah. Because it would be nice to be able to go and pop in and have a cup of tea with them
Yeah.
without having to do
Right.
everything else.
Yeah.
At the moment, I do feel like I am their carer,
Right.
and that means that I can't just pop in and have a cup of tea.
Yeah. So if you were able to drop some of those kind of caring responsibilities, you might be able to get back to being their daughter
Yeah.
a bit more of the time.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah. And it sounds like actually those visits, if you were able to just pop around and have a cup of tea, might be more enjoyable for everyone.
Yeah, that would be nice. I'm not sure how they would take to that, but it's an option.
Which of those, just looking at the now, I know that's not a full list of the options, but just looking at the now, which of those seems like the most doable?
I think the calling in the morning
Okay.
and me just having a check-in. How are you? Is there anything that you need today?
Okay.
It's something that I could probably
If we were
have a go
gonna-
with.
Yeah. Well, that's the whole point of everything we do here. We treat these things just as an experiment and we see how it works. So what would your next step be, do you think, to make that work?
Thinking about the communication work we've done, I would have to have a conversation with them both,
Okay.
and
Just to explain that was going to change.
I think that would be helpful. And I guess I need to be honest with Mum and Dad, that I am struggling,
Yeah.
and I want to enjoy spending time with them,
Yeah.
and I do still want to help them, but it feels a bit much. And maybe if I could call them in the morning, and if they could have a list for me.
Okay. So that's something
Maybe.
you're asking them to
Yeah.
do then as well.
Yeah.
You're explaining your limits.
Yeah. Because my health's just getting worse and worse, and I'm trying to do all the things that you've been teaching me around pacing and looking after myself. But that's why this is such a big problem,
Yeah.
because it's really hard.
Okay. So that would be the first step then. Having that conversation, just really, instead of you going over this stuff in your head over and over again, you'd share some of that. And just be honest, explain your limits, and be very clear about what you need from them, which is for them to make you think ahead and to come up with a list of what they might need from you that day.
Yeah. I'm even thinking now, if this works, I could ring them in the morning, and then I could do whatever they need me to do, and then just say I'll ring you in the evening to check in.
Yeah.
and that would free me up
Yeah.
during the day.
Yeah. Brilliant. So we're almost going back and revising this option, aren't we? Call in the morning.
If it works, I'm hopeful.
Yeah. So the first step towards being able to do that is going to be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Then sticking to this for a bit
Mhm.
and seeing how that goes.
Yeah.
And it might not be easy straight away,
Mhm.
but I suppose that's something you can bring back and we can have a think about.
Yeah. That's been really helpful actually to just because before I was just feeling stuck like there weren't any options,
Mm-hmm.
but there are options.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely couldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And I think might be something for the future.
Yeah.
But I can certainly have a go.
Yeah.
Have a go at that one.
And I always feel like being able to have some of this conversation is maybe even the first step towards some of this.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I can see how that might be helpful.
Does that then feel like it's something that you might be able to try out?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think I can have a go at that straight
Okay.
away.
Okay. Well, if you were able to do that, then we have a bit of a think next time about how that went, what's working, what's not working, what else we could think about.
Yeah.
Does that sound alright?
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Thank you.